Okay, I guess we're back. Let's see here. Ethan Crumbley. Do a little live stream check. I'll try to put a timestamp for the people that are rewatching. While we get set up here with the checks, got to put some tags too. Give people a minute to join. What's up? What's up? Welcome. Good evening. Got quite a bit to watch. Gonna watch the arraignment. What's up? Welcome. Audio's good. And the press conference the police did. New details about the case are coming out. And the audio wasn't too good on the video, so I downloaded it and did a quick little modification, and then I rendered it. So that took a little while. So we're gonna watch the arraignment first, and I'm currently fixing the audio on the conference, so we can watch that together as well. So how you guys doing, man? What's up? What's up? I even read an article. They were talking about charging possibly the parents. The prosecutor said. I was like, oh snap. Ethan Crumbley. What's up? What's up? Welcome, welcome. Thanks for stopping by, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. I guess we'll get started with this too. A second. Oh, and a fourth person passed away. So now there's 4 deceased people. I guess they passed away in the hospital. So we have 17-year-old Madison Baldwin, 14-year-old Hannah Saint, Juliana, and 16-year-old Tate Meyer. And then now there's 17-year-old Justin Schilling. And, you know, we were talking about this guy last night, Ethan, and that is the person that came out to be. And somebody reached out to me this morning. You know, they didn't want me to say their name or anything like that, but they said they're a parent from the school. They don't even want me to use their voice. But they wanted to talk. They said they had some interesting things to say. I haven't reached out yet. I'd have to take notes and then reiterate it. It's kind of a pain when you're doing that. But take care. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. What's up, mods? Discord crew, welcome. Pull this up here. Do this in the meantime. All right, so let's get started.
From Ethan's cell phone, taken in a search warrant, depicted a video made by him the night before the incident, wherein he talked about shooting and killing students the next day at Oxford High School. Further, a journal was recovered from Ethan's cell phone, taken in a search warrant, depicted a video made by him the night before the incident, wherein he talked about shooting and killing students the next day at Oxford High School. Further, a journal was recovered from Ethan's backpack, also detailing his desire to shoot up the school to include murdering students. A preliminary review of social media accounts indicate that Ethan Crumbley had access to a firearm and he practiced with a 6-hour handgun.
Thank you. And I just would ask the people, because these individuals weren't specifically identified by name. Is that because they are minors? Does that need to be done as it relates to each particular victim? They are in the complaint and warrant, but obviously not sworn to by the officer here.
Judge, they are listed in the complaint and warrant, and at this stage, I'd ask Lieutenant Willis to name those individuals so that the square to is consistent with our complaint and warrant.
Thank you. So if you can just go through each one, one by one, starting with obviously, well, actually with count 1, which indicates the terrorism causing death.
Okay.
Do you have a copy of the complaint and warrant?
I do, Your Honor.
Okay.
Count 1, did knowingly, willfully, deliberately, and with premeditation commit murder in first degree, a violent felony that the defendant knew or had reason to know was dangerous to human life when intending to intimidate, coerce a civilian population, to wit, the Oxford High School community, and cause the deaths of Madison Baldwin, Tate Meyer, Hannah St. Juliana, and Justin Schilling.
Okay, thank you. And then you have 4 counts of homicide first degree. If you could just indicate those individuals that are deceased.
Yes, ma'am. So the deceased are Tate Meyer, Hannah St. Juliana, Madison Baldwin, Justin Schilling.
And then assault with intent to murder. There, it looks like there's 7 victims. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, if you could, those are the people that received gunshot wounds. If you could just indicate those individuals to be consistent with the complaint and warrant.
Yes, Your Honor. Elijah Mueller.
Hang on just a minute. Let me make
Yes,
sure
ma'am.
we've got everybody. The first one I have for count 6 is Phoebe Author. Is that, I'm looking at the complaint and warrant.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm going off my notes. I apologize.
Okay, just look at the, if you could
Yes,
just do me a
ma'am.
favor, no problem. Just look at the complaint and warrant. It's really, it should be real easy. See, it says count 6.
Yep. Oh, yeah, I got it, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Did make an assault upon Phoebe Arthur with the intent to commit the crime of murder.
Thank you. And go ahead, count 7.
Yep. Did make an assault upon John Asudo, I apologize, with intent to commit the crime of murder.
And count 8.
Did make an assault upon Molly Darnell with the intent to commit the crime of murder.
And count 9.
Did make an assault upon Riley Franz with the intent to commit the crime of murder.
And count 10.
Did make an assault upon Elijah Mueller with the intent to commit the crime of murder.
And count 11.
Did make an assault upon Kylie Osage with the intent to commit the crime of murder.
And count 12.
Did make an assault upon Aiden Watson with the intent to commit the crime of murder.
Thank you. And it looks like the remainder of the counts 13 through 24 are possession of a firearm and the commission of a felony that attached to all of the prior felony counts. So, anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Based upon the information that you provided to the court under oath, I do find probable cause to believe that a complaint and warrant should be issued. Count 1, terrorism causing death. Count 2, 3, 4, and 5, homicide and murder in the first degree. Count 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, assault with intent to murder. And as it relates to each of those felony charges, count 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24, possession of a firearm and the commission of a felony to attach to each of those above indicated felony charges. If you want to come forward and sign the complaint and warrant, is there anything further regarding the swear to Mr. Keast?
Not regarding the swear to, Judge. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
May I approach her?
Of course. I think that's it. You signed the complaint. I'll sign the warrant. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
This
Okay,
is the
it's my understanding that we.
For everybody that just joined, thanks for stopping by. This is the arraignment that we're watching. So they talk about some details. They had like a Zoom thing. This was a little bit, like I think 2 hours ago or more. And then we're gonna watch. There was a press conference as well, and they give some updates about this guy. I started taking highlights, but everything's gonna be in the video that we're listening to anyway. But just little highlights to reiterate.
May be able to arraign Mr. Crumbley today.
Oh, one of the interesting things, let me just tell you guys real quick before we continue. I was reading on one of the articles. So the day of the shooting, reportedly, multiple articles stated, but I saw this on Daily Mail as well as heavy.com, which has some interesting information. People were on to this, the name, since yesterday, onto the parents since last night. If you guys remember, I didn't want to put the faces on the screen yet, the parents. I wasn't really sure. But now we can see the parents. And it says the day of the shooting at 10 a.m. that morning, his mother and father, Jennifer and James, were called into Oxford High School for a meeting with teachers about Ethan's behavior. It's unclear what prompted the meeting, but it was the second time Ethan had been called in 2 days. On Monday, he met with teachers alone. So it seemed like he had something going on, some sort of issue. You know what I'm saying? And of course, they're probably not going to come out with everything yet. I mean, through court, I'm sure it will. Brandy, thank you for the super chat and the membership. You're doing such an amazing job. Keep us all up to date. All the hard work you do is much appreciated. Thank you. I appreciate you guys too. And I'm just easing my way back into doing the live streams again. Start doing more videos and stuff. The bullying thing, I saw somebody in the chat say bullying. Supposedly they're claiming that there's no evidence of bullying, but there was like, I thought reportedly students saying that he was being bullied. So, I mean, I don't know.
Hey, do we have, I'll ask my law clerk if we can get him from, oh, here it looks like Children's Village. We'll have him brought in.
Michigan.
Judge, if I may,
Yes.
because the defendant is a juvenile under MCR 6.907, the prosecuting attorney must make a good faith effort for the juvenile's parents to be notified of the arraignment. I do believe that Miss Nadine Hatton, who was initially appointed to this case, has made contact with the juvenile's parents. And I see on the Zoom screen indication that the defendant's parents are in fact attending this arraignment.
That is correct. I do see, I'm not sure that that is them, but they are identified as Mr. and Mrs. Crumbley parents, so I assume that they are in the courtroom. Their video is not on. I don't know if their audio is on. I assume that it is. Yes, thank you for bringing that to the court's attention and making a record of that. And it does, I can indicate that they actually, Mr. and Mrs. Crumbley, this is Judge Karniak. And could you just, you are the parents of Ethan Crumbley, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
That is correct.
Thank you. If you could just state your full names, that would be great.
I'm Jennifer Crumbley.
James Crumbley.
Thank you very much. Anything else from the people before we bring Mr. Ethan Crumbley in and start the
No, Judge, I would just like to speak as to bond, and I do have a motion to make at the appropriate time.
Thank you. All right. So, for arraignment purposes, calling the case of People versus Ethan Crumbley, case number 216611. Again, your appearances, Mr. Keast and Mr. Kosak.
Oh, there they are. Parents.
Thank you, Judge. Mark Keast on behalf of the people.
Scott Kozak on behalf of Mr. Crumbley, Your Honor. Judge, before we continue, full disclosure, it was a last-minute call to bring me in as far as just the arraignment purposes. I know Ms. Hatton, and I have an immense amount of respect for her, may have had a chance to review his rights with him. I have not. I would appreciate it if the court would provide me with an opportunity to at least review his rights with him, go over the entire situation, at least as far as we know, before we conduct the arraignment, just to make sure that we conduct everything in an appropriate manner.
Absolutely. We'll put you in a breakout room with Mr. Crumbley, and just let us know whenever you're ready.
And Your Honor, Nadine Hatton, that is correct, the information that you have been provided, and I apologize for interrupting. I was the attorney assigned to Ethan Crumbley on the juvenile matter. If Mr. Kozak does not mind, I would like to join the breakout room with him. I have had an opportunity to advise Ethan of his trial rights. I spent over an hour talking with Ethan, and so I want to make certain that he is comfortable and understands everything with Mr. Kozak. So if the court would allow me to join the breakout room, if Mr. Kozak does not have any objection, I would appreciate it.
Certainly no objection.
I think it's very appropriate under the circumstances, and we'll put the three of you in a breakout room. Just let us know when you're ready.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
This kind of reminded me of Nicholas Cruz. Thank you, Wendy, for the super chat. Let me see something one
After
second.
that, we heard 2 gunshots, and then after that,
I see what you're saying. Okay, thank you. Somebody correct. So the image in the thumbnail, the guy in the red shirt, so I saw 2 articles posted, and it is misleading. That's actually a student from the school speaking on the situation. I see WRC has that correct title. The other one has the other thing. So while we're watching this, I'll just change it up and fix it. Thanks. Oh, they're taking a little break. I'm gonna skip past the break. Right? Oh no, it's at 15 minutes. Okay.
Is Hatton in there? She can't be.
Let me fix it up.
It looks like she's frozen. All right. Once she goes into the breakout room, we'll just take a brief break. We'll make sure that she gets in there.
I mean, it's actually kind of a great thumbnail, but no, let me fix it up a little bit. Take that off. 'Cause, yeah.
You want to take her out and put her back in? Oh, there she is. Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right. We're going to take a few minutes recess, and then we'll come back. And we'll try to handle those cases as quickly as possible, Mrs. Scott.
Okay, so we're gonna skip past this, and I'm fixing the thumbnail. 21.
Thank you. Report. Okay. Back on the record on Crumbley. Mr. and Mrs. Crumbley.
Okay.
Okay. Back on the record on Crumbley. Mr. and Mrs. Crumbley. Can you hear the court?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I'm assuming that you would like to be put in the breakout room with your son and his attorneys. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay, we will do that. We will put you all together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Take another break.
Okay.
All rise. Please be seated. Okay, recalling Crumbley 216611. And Mr. Kozak, your appearance, or actually Mr. Keith's first year appearance.
Thank you, Judge. Mark Keast on behalf of the people.
Mr. Kozak.
Once again, Your Honor, Scott Kozak on behalf of Mr. Crumbley.
Ms. Hatton.
Sorry. Yes, Your Honor. Nadine Hatton. I was formally appointed to Mr. Ethan Crumbley as his juvenile attorney.
Thank you. And Mr. Crumbley, could you state your full name for us, please?
Ethan Robert Crumbley.
Thank you. Mr. Crumbley, at any time you do not hear or understand myself or any of the parties to the proceeding, will you please let the court know?
Yes.
Mr. Kozak, can you...
So look at that. There we go. We see a little bit of a... Yeah, he looks a lot older than all the images that I've seen so far. And he has this, supposedly, I think this is the jacket, so like the suicide watch thing, I believe. So he doesn't hurt himself or something.
Ample time to talk to your client, as well as with
Yeah,
Ms.
deep
Hatton,
voice too, right?
along with Mr. Crumbley's parents,
Maybe want to talk a little deeper. Jesus, these kids.
to proceed with an arraignment.
Yes, Your Honor, and I appreciate Ms. Hatton's presence as well as Mr. Crumbley's parents. I appreciate the court's time in allowing us to get acquainted. Mr. Crumbley was present for the swear-to. He does not. For purposes of arraignment, if the court wants me to proceed, I can at this point in time.
Yes, okay, great. So then I'm going to, Mr. Crumbley, I'm going to advise you of your rights and the charges against you. Again, if at any time you do not hear or understand anything, will you please let the court know?
Yes.
You do have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Do you understand that right, sir?
Yes, I do.
All right. Count 1 does indicate that you did that on or about November 30th, 2021, Ethan Robert Crumbley did knowingly, willfully, deliberately, and with premeditation commit murder first degree, a felony that the defendant knew or had reason to know was dangerous to human life while intending to intimidate or coerce the civilian population, to wit, the Oxford High School community, and cause the death of Madison Baldwin, Tate Meyer, Hannah St. Juliana, and Justin Schilling, contrary to MCL 750.543F. This is a felony punishable by life without parole or a minimum of 25 to 40 years and a maximum sentence of at least 60 years with reimbursements for government expenses incurred for this violation. This is otherwise known as terrorism causing death. Count 2 indicates that on that same date and time, November 30th, 2021, Ethan Robert Crumbley did deliberately with the intent to kill and with premeditation kill and murder one Madison Baldwin, contrary to MCL 750.316. This is a felony that is punishable by life without parole or a minimum sentence of 25 to 40 years and a maximum sentence of at least 60 years. This is otherwise known as homicide or murder in the first degree, premeditated, being a juvenile defendant. Count 3 alleges that on November 30th, 2021, Ethan Robert Crumbley did deliberately with the intent to kill and with premeditation kill and murder one Tate Meyer, contrary to MCL 750.316. This is a felony punishable by life without parole or a minimum sentence of 25 to 40 years and a maximum sentence of at least 60 years, also known as homicide, murder first degree, premeditated by a juvenile defendant. Count 4 alleges that on November 30th, 2021, and again, all of these, I'm sorry, are in the township of Oxford. I did indicate that, and I will continue to indicate that Ethan Robert Crumbley did deliberately with the intent to kill and with premeditation kill and murder one Hannah St. Juliana, contrary to MCL 750.316, felony, life without parole, or a minimum sentence of 25 to 40 years, and a maximum sentence of at least 60 years. And this is in violation of MCL 750, again, .316. This is homicide, murder first degree, premeditated by a juvenile defendant. Count 5 alleges that on November 30th, Ethan Robert Crumbley did in the township of Oxford deliberately with the intent to kill and with premeditation kill and murder Justin Schilling, contrary to MCL 750.316. A felony life without parole or a minimum sentence of 25 to 40 years and a maximum sentence of at least 60 years. This is called homicide, murder first degree, premeditated by a juvenile defendant. Count 6 alleges that on November 30th, 2021, Ethan Robert Crumbley did in Oxford Township make an assault on Phoebe Author with intent to commit the crime of murder, contrary to MCL 750.83. This is a felony, punishable by up to life or any number of years, DNA to be taken upon arrest. A consecutive sentence may be imposed under MCL 750.506A if the assault was committed in a place of confinement. This is also known as assault with intent to murder. Count 7 indicates that on November 30th, 2021, Ethan Robert Crumbley, while in the township of Oxford, did make an assault upon John Asciutto with intent to commit the crime of murder, contrary to MCL 750.83. This is a felony punishable by life or any number of years, DNA to be taken upon arrest. This is also known as assault with intent to commit murder. Count 8 indicates that on November 30th, 2021, Ethan Robert Crumbley did in Oxford Township make an assault upon Molly Darnell with the intent to commit the crime of murder, contrary to MCL 750.83. This is a felony punishable by life for any number of years and DNA to be taken upon arrest, also known as assault with intent to murder. Count 9 alleges that on November 30th, 2021, Ethan Robert Crumbley, while in the township of Oxford, did make an assault upon Riley Franz with intent to commit the crime of murder, contrary to MCL 750.83. This is a felony.
I saw Sally asking about the capital punishment thing. I just looked it up really quick for people that are curious because I didn't know either. It says capital punishment in... Oh, wait, I'm looking up the wrong place. My bad. Oops. Good thing I double check myself. I think this was the right place. As Michigan was the first jurisdiction in the world to abolish the death penalty for ordinary crimes. Until 1963, no person was ever tried for... Let me keep looking it up. I just want something yes or no. It wasn't like all this other shit.
For any number of years, DNA to be taken
Somebody in the
upon
chat knows.
arrest. This is called assault with intent
I don't think it does. I think it was abolished over there, but I just want to double check.
to murder. Count 10 alleges that on November 30th, 2021, Ethan Robert
Thank you, Philip. Philip says death penalty has been constitutionally banned in Michigan since 1963. Okay.
Crumbley, while in Oxford Township, did make an assault upon Elijah Mueller with intent to commit the crime of murder, contrary to MCL 750.83, a felony punishable by life or any number of years, DNA to be taken upon arrest. Also, again, assault with intent to murder. Count 11 alleges that on November 30th, 2021, Ethan Robert Crumbley, while in Oxford Township, did make an assault upon Kylie Assange with the intent to commit the crime of murder, contrary to MCL 750.83. This is a felony punishable by life or any number of years. DNA to be taken upon arrest. Count 12 indicates that on November 30th, 2021, Ethan Robert Crumbley, while in Oxford Township, did make an assault upon Aiden Watson with intent to commit the crime of murder, contrary to MCL 750.83, a felony punishable by life or any number of years, and DNA to be taken upon arrest. This is also called assault with intent to murder. There are now 12 counts of possession of a firearm in the commission of a felony. Counts 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. They do allege that on November 30th, 2021, in Oxford Township, Ethan Robert Crumbley did carry or have in possession a firearm, to wit, a pistol at the time he committed or attempted to commit a felony, to wit, terrorism causing death. Also, murder in the first degree for count 14, murder in the first degree for count 15, murder in the first degree for count 16, murder in the first degree for count 17, assault with intent to commit murder for count 18, assault with intent to commit murder for count 19, assault with intent to commit murder for count 20, assault with intent to commit murder for count 21, assault with intent to commit murder for count 22, assault with intent to commit murder count 23, and assault with intent to commit murder count 24. This is contrary to the laws of the state, specifically MCL 750.227B. This is a felony punishable by up to 2 years consecutively with and preceding any term of imprisonment imposed for the felony or attempted felony of conviction. This is called possession of a firearm in the commission of a felony. Sir, do you understand all the charges against you?
Yes, I do.
Again, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Do you understand your right to remain silent?
Yes.
You also have, of course, your right to an attorney, and Mr. Kozak and Ms. Hatton have been with you, and that right will continue throughout all legal proceedings. And as it relates to anything further, we do need to set a bond. As it relates to bond, I will first let actually we do have pretrial services here to make a recommendation as to bond, and then we will let each attorney speak as it relates to that. So if the individual from pretrial services can come forward, state their full name and spell it for our court recorder.
Darla Finley, pretrial services.
I'm sorry, Judge. Just before we do that, I just want to make sure it's clear that my client is standing mute. We're asking the court to enter not guilty.
I'm sorry. Yes. I will enter a plea of not guilty on his behalf, and we will set this for bond. Thank you, Mr. Kozak.
Not guilty.
Darla Finley, pretrial services. DARLAFINLEY. The defendant was unable to be interviewed due to his location at the Children's Village. Therefore, that we have limited information. We do know that he's 15 years old, a resident of Oxford. He's a sophomore at Oxford High School. He has no prior juvenile record, no noted police contacts in Clemens. Given the serious nature of the matter, there's no conditions or combinations of conditions which will assure the defendant's appearance in court or safety to the community at large. Therefore, we recommend that bond be denied.
Thank you from pretrial services. Mr. Keast, anything you'd like to state?
I would, Judge, thank you. Because the defendant is a juvenile charged as an adult, this court must look at Michigan Court Rule 6.909, subparagraph 2. That court rule states that regarding detention without bail, if the proof is evident or if the presumption is great that the juvenile committed the offense, the magistrate or the court may deny bail, subparagraph A, to a juvenile charged with first-degree murder. Judge, in this case, I am asking this court to deny bail, as pretrial supervision has indicated. As a offer of proof, I think it's appropriate for this court to have a brief chronology of what happened on November the 30th, 2021. As you heard during the swear to, Judge, Oxford High School is equipped with surveillance video. We've had the opportunity to review that surveillance video just this morning. And what's depicted on that video, honestly, Judge, I don't have the words to describe how horrific that was that happened on November the 30th. It depicted just before 12:51 p.m., this defendant entering a bathroom with a backpack. A minute or two later, he exited the same bathroom without the backpack, but with a gun in hand. At that point, he methodically and deliberately walked down the hallway, aiming the firearm at students and firing. Right outside the bathroom, he began firing, Judge. After children started running away from the defendant, he continued down the hallway, again at a deliberate and methodical pace, pointing and aiming inside classrooms, and had students who hadn't had the opportunity to escape. This continued on for approximately 5 minutes. The defendant went to another bathroom. As deputies arrived, he set the firearm down and he surrendered. Judge, a preliminary review of the defendant's social media accounts, his cell phone, as well as other document evidence recovered on scene showed that this defendant planned this shooting. He deliberately brought the handgun that day with the intent to murder as many students as he could. Judge, I believe no bond is appropriate. And again, like I stated, at the appropriate time, I'd like to make a motion to transfer this defendant from Children's Village to the Oakland County Jail.
Thank you. Mr. Kosak?
Your Honor, understanding the extreme nature of this case and understanding the circumstances at hand.
Somebody sent me this email. I just wanted to kind of show real quick in context with what he was saying. This is the profile I believe was legitimately his. There were some other profiles floating around. I was looking at this yesterday and I was like, this seems the more legit one. There was another one with like 0 posts. But supposedly, you know, people were saying this guy had a countdown to the shooting, and he had the gun on this page. I believe this is the page, you know what I'm saying? I've seen this floating around a lot. Oh, I think this is supposed to be the countdown, maybe. I don't know what this is on, like a story. How these people do this on Instagram? You could put a countdown on your story, I think, right, or something like that. Or I don't know how they do it on your post. 9 days, 7 hours, 24 minutes. Deer head. You see, I don't know, bro. The weird stuff of the internet. And this is the I don't know that. See, this is the other profile I kept seeing float around. I was like, this doesn't seem legit to me, but I don't know. Maybe he had another one. I don't know, man. The Black Death. I didn't think the Black Death was real, but I don't know.
And having spoken to Mr. Crumbley as well as his parents, I'm going to leave.
If you guys wouldn't mind hitting like too, I'd appreciate that. But yeah, totally premeditated. I don't think it was like a freak out moment. Just, I'm going to go now. You know?
The setting of the bond and the discretion of the court.
Thank you. Anything further from Ms. Hatton?
Nothing further, Your Honor. I leave in the discretion of the court.
Thank you. And I'm assuming you don't want your client to speak.
That's correct, Your Honor, on both Mr. Kozak and my behalf.
Thank you. I do believe, based upon all the information that's been provided to date, that a no bond, a denial of bond is appropriate pursuant to court rule, and I will order no bond on this case. Of course, your client does have a right to a preliminary exam within the statutory 21 time period, as well as a probable cause conference. I don't know if the court should have set something, or have we set something, do we know? Oh, it's on the front of the file? Okay. All right. A probable cause conference will be set on December 13th at 1:15 in front of myself, and then an exam the following week on December 20th at 1:15 again in front of myself. Anything further from the people or the defense?
Thank you, Judge. I do have a motion for the court. The defendant's currently housed in Children's Village, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you, Judge. Under the same court rule, MCR 6.909, subparagraph B regarding place of confinement. Subparagraph 2. On motion of a prosecuting attorney or superintendent of a juvenile facility in which the juvenile is detained, the magistrate or court may order the juvenile confined in a jail or similar facility designed and used to incarcerate adult prisoners upon a showing that the juvenile's habits or conduct are considered a menace to other juveniles. Judge, in this case, I can't think of a more appropriate set of circumstances for a transfer from Oakland County Children's Village to the Oakland County Jail. Now, this court must also look at the statute, and that's MCL 764.27A. I spoke with Lieutenant Tim Willis, who is the officer in charge, and did the swear to this afternoon. He has confirmed that the Oakland County Jail can house this defendant in a location out of sight and sound from adults, and that's the standard in the statute, Judge. the Oakland County Jail is better equipped to handle this situation. They have done so in the past. They have done so in conformance with the statute. It is a more secure location, and I would ask that this court find that this defendant's conduct is a menace to juveniles by evidence of the simple fact that he targeted juveniles in this offense. Count 1 is a charge of terrorism via murder, Judge, and the evidence that will come out of the preliminary examination and the subsequent trial will show that this was a planned event, it was methodical in its operation, and it was done so to terrorize and intimidate others in the community, Judge. I do believe the Oakland County Jail is the appropriate location to house this defendant. Thank you.
Thank you. As it relates to that issue, Mr. Kozak and Ms. Hatton.
Thank you, Your Honor. All due respect to Mr. Keist, Your Honor, I want to remind the court, and I know the court doesn't need reminding, that these are allegations. He has not been found guilty of these issues or these charges as of yet, and I'm asking the court to. I'm objecting to the transfer at this point in time. I think the Children's Village is more than capable of monitoring him and maintaining the safety of the other residents of that facility. And I think at this point, Judge, if the court's going to consider this motion, I would ask the court to perhaps hold the ruling in abeyance until after the preliminary examination, at which point the court will have had a chance to have taken sworn and heard sworn testimony regarding these incidents.
Regarding the issue itself,
regarding the
regarding
incident,
the fact that he shouldn't be moved?
Regarding the incidents itself, Your Honor, and because I believe that's what the prosecution is using as a reason for the transfer in and of itself. That's evidence of the need to transfer.
Thank you. Ms. Hatton?
Your Honor, just very briefly, this court has already found that the proof is evident under 6.909, and I know this is a preliminary showing. Obviously, defense has not had the opportunity to review discovery, neither has this court. However, it is alleged in these 24 counts that this defendant didn't commit first-degree murder upon anybody, but he targeted other juveniles. And I believe that 6.909 subparagraph B is written specifically for a situation such as this. The Oakland County Jail is the appropriate location for this individual, Judge. It is, like I said, well equipped for this. They have the ability to keep this defendant separate from both sight and sound of other adults. This is appropriate in these circumstances, Judge.
Ms. Hatton, anything further?
Yeah, I concur in Mr. Kozak's argument. I will advise the court that as Mr. Ethan Crumbley's juvenile attorney, I did have an opportunity to speak again with Mr. Ethan Crumbley at the juvenile facility, Children's Village, as well as the individuals who are supervising Mr. Crumbley, Ethan Crumbley at Children's Village. It's been reported to me, Your Honor, as an officer of the court, that Ethan has been cooperative. He is on suicide prevention there at Children's Village. He's not in general population. He's secluded, and he's receiving one-on-one supervision. I would ask the court, based on that information, and that he is cloaked in the veil of innocence unless proven guilty, that he remain at Children's Village until after the preliminary examination. Given that Children's Village is suitable and able to maintain the safety of the other children at Children's Village, I believe it is appropriate at this time that Ethan remain at his current placement with the current conditions and supervisions in place until the preliminary exam, which is in a matter of days, December 20th, 2021, as this court has set.
Thank you. I'm going to ask to hear from Lieutenant Willis regarding safety issues and what is considered. If you want to come up to the podium, Lieutenant, and state your full name for us, please.
Lieutenant Tim Willis.
And Lieutenant Willis, I had heard from Mr. Keese that you thought it was appropriate for him to be moved to the adult facility. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Could you explain to me why you feel that way? I mean, besides the obvious of what is alleged to occur.
Right. So obviously, I agree with Mr. Keese about the incidents that I witnessed via the video and all that stuff. But also the sheriff's office in the past has housed several juveniles. I actually worked in that jail and know for a fact that how I just have all the confidence in the world in my team, the sheriff deputies at the jail, to secure him and keep him completely sequestered.
So how does that work? Explain what would happen to him and how he would, what his
Yes,
placement would be.
Yes, Your Honor. We have several jail cells in and around, but typically we have where he would go, where he would be placed is a clinic area, and it's completely secluded off from the rest of it's the only thing, if there's a glass front door, but everything else is bricked in. So it's completely private, completely back and away, and a deputy monitors him.
So he'd have no contact whatsoever with any adult inmates. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. And he would be in that facility by himself.
Correct. And there would be no, again, the only adults he would hear would be the deputies working there, but no inmates. Not see them or hear them.
Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Under the circumstances and based upon the nature of this offense, still, of course, understanding that the defendant has a right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, I'm going to certainly err on the side of caution. I think it is within the court rules to do so, and I would agree with Mr. Keese. This is the perfect example of a case that should be done to protect other juveniles. So I will have him move to that facility, as it has been indicated that he will be in isolation and will not be in contact with any other adult inmates, but only that of sheriff's deputies. Anything further?
Not from the people, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your Honor, the only other matter would be making sure that he has counsel at the date of the probable cause conference. I'm not sure if the court has paperwork already prepared on his behalf, but he will need court-appointed counsel at that point.
So I'm not sure who that obviously is done by circuit court. Do we know what's going on in that regard?
He will just need to fill out the court-appointed attorney request, Judge, and they will get that.
Okay. So, all right. Mr. Crumbley, we want to make sure that you have counsel at each and every future court date. So we're going to make sure you have that paperwork today to fill out, so that you will have an attorney present at your probable cause conference, your preliminary exam, and all future proceedings. Do you have any questions about filling out that court-appointed attorney form?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kozak. Okay. If there's nothing further, we are in recess. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
So they're throwing him in the adult place, right? But like he's going to be isolated, I guess. So the only adults would be the deputies. Is that what I heard? Right? I think that's what I heard. Because it seemed like they were trying to decide where he would be staying.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Your Honor, may I approach the court report?
Sure.
Okay. Cruise vibes.
The Auburn Hills case is since it's 4.
Okay, so I have another the press conference from the police, the new one, and they did a Q&A, which is pretty good too. I wanted to show you guys real quick before we get to that. This article, not going to read the whole thing, but just wanted to show you some of the pictures of the victims. These are the parents right here. We just saw them on the trial. I think it's one of these. Let's see. This is the post with the gun. Saw this yesterday. And like I saw somebody mention in the chat earlier, yeah, he probably had multiple, these kids, everybody got multiple social medias or whatever. He probably had another one too. And he said, just got my new beauty SIG. SAR 9mm. Posted on Instagram pretending it was his. Showing out, showing off. All in the name of Jesus. Other kids at school say Crumbley, shown in a picture taken a few years ago, was being bullied at the school. So, I mean, deputies are saying there's no evidence or whatever, but kids are saying that he was being bullied. This is another picture from, I guess, a couple of years ago. Crumbley shown in a 2017 profile about a school project. This was police removed multiple long-barreled guns from the Michigan school shooter's parents' house in Oxford. The teen used a 9mm semi-automatic to carry out the attack. This is the home right here. It's interesting that they can do that because I mean, I guess, I don't know. I thought they're not supposed to. I don't know. If anybody else does, it's considered doxing, isn't it? Basketball hoop outside where Ethan lives. No other kids are believed to be living in the home. So some people were asking about that too. Other kids and stuff like that. Believe that there's no other kids in there. There was a YouTube page vlog thing that people were sending me yesterday. I guess that's legit. I guess that is him. I think it was the father's Facebook like vlog channel. Everybody got a Facebook now. Here's dad and son together. And I wonder, like, what is the defense? How do you come up with a defense for this? Or I mean, are you just gonna say what? Go for mental illness? Are you gonna say he was try to prove he was being attacked or coerced into this? Or like, I don't know. What is your defense for killing multiple people like this? Prosecutor said on Wednesday they may charge the shooter's parents for not locking up the gun that he used in the attack. So this is Madison Baldwin. And if you were here for the live stream yesterday, people were talking about this before it was fully confirmed. 17 years old. Hannah Juliana, 14. Picture there. Justin Schilling, he's the guy or the kid that died in the hospital. This is the newest one. I believe he was 17. What I had here written down somewhere. Oh, and this is Tate Meyer, died at school. So let me pull up the other video because it's like a Q&A. I downloaded and kind of try to fix the audio a little bit for you guys so it's a little bit more manageable. Press conference.
I agree with.
And I haven't even watched this, but I had Momo skim through it for me. I appreciate that. I think it's like a Q&A thing. So I always like the Q&A portions of the conferences. Let me just do this real quick. Appreciate you guys stopping by tonight for the updates. If you wouldn't mind hitting like, I'd appreciate that as well. Thank you for the super chats. Care, Brandy, Wendy say, hey, Mel, love your haircut. Hope all is well. Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate that. Looks like Nicholas Cruz. MH, thank you for the super chat. Teresa and Parasol, thank you so much. All right, so let's get into it.
Holding this individual wholly and completely responsible for the deplorable, tragic event that occurred by choice. And so we appreciate her stepping up quickly and charging this individual as an adult, which I have said from the beginning of this, I believe is most appropriate. You also know we put out a release, sadly, the 17-year-old fourth victim passed today at McLaren Hospital shortly after 10 o'clock as our fourth decedent to die from gunshot wounds in Tuesday's senseless shooting. You already know the other three tragic victims, and thankfully we're learning more about them and hopefully we'll honor their memory, not just with the charges, but to talk about their life and what amazing young people they were. You also know 7 other people were injured. I'm going to update you on their status. 6 students, 1 teacher. 4 remain hospitalized. 3 have now been treated and released. A 14-year-old male remains in serious condition with GSW gunshot wounds to the jaw and hand. A 17-year-old female with neck wounds. She is at a local area at McLaren Hospital. A 14-year-old female has improved, thankfully. I would say no small part to great medical care, emergency responders, fire service, and prayers. Quite frankly, the public. She's been removed from critical to stable with gunshot wounds to the left chest and neck. She's at Hurley Medical in Flint. And we have a 17-year-old female that still remains in critical condition with a gunshot wound to the chest, so still looking for prayers and support for her and her family. The following discharged was a 15-year-old male who had a wound to the left leg, a 17-year-old male who had a hip gunshot wound, he was discharged, and a 47-year-old female teacher that had suffered a gunshot wound to her left shoulder was discharged, as you already know. Again, the charges levied by the prosecutor we're supportive of, including one count of terrorism causing death, because very clearly there were a lot of victims in that school other than the ones that were actually struck. And then in addition to that, she charged 4 counts of first-degree murder, 7 counts of assault with intent to do murder, and 12 counts of felony firearm. Our detectives right now are in the car on the way to District Court 52-3 for a swear-to the facts and allegations contained in these warrants. And after those are sworn to, we anticipate that a video arraignment from Children's Village direct to the court will occur, and we are asking and joining the prosecutor to ask the judge that this individual be transferred to the Oakland County Jail from Children's Village. So we hope that the judge rules on that as well. I'd like to update you on some of the information. This is still evolving, right? It's a crime scene. We've still got a ton of interviews to do, video to review, documents to review, search warrants that have been completed that have to be examined in terms of content and items that were seized. So sometimes things evolve. When I said last night that he had 7 rounds left, he actually had 18.
Oh.
7 were in his pocket that were loose. So he had an additional rounds in an actual magazine. Excuse me. So he had a total of 18 live rounds left. We have recovered 30 spent shell casings at this point by processing the scene, meaning he fired more than 30 shots. More to the point, again, I think it highlights the fact that with this much ammunition still with him, 18 live rounds, the quick actions of the school and the lockdown, as well as the deputies getting in and going to the sound, going to the danger, saved lives. That doesn't minimize the loss or the tragedy, but it's important that we continue to look for ways to prevent these, and if they ever tragically happen, how we can mitigate and reduce that tragedy. The suspect, we believe at this point now, had 3 15-round magazines. 2 were initially recovered by investigators, and after a thorough forensic examination of the crime scene, which went until 5:30 this morning, another magazine was recovered. As I mentioned, the crime scene was searched and processed until 5:30 this morning and has now been turned back to Oxford schools. We're coordinating counseling and therapist efforts with Care House to assist all Oxford community schools. And we also have an offer for a crisis team from the FBI, and we're grateful for that assistance. I would remind and encourage anyone, whether they were there or feel traumatized by the event, it is strength to seek help, not weakness. That trauma affects people in dramatic and sad ways, and asking people for help, seeking a therapist or a counselor or a chaplain is an important step to process such a tragedy. Also, I want to clear up some of the incorrect information that keeps circulating. Social media keeps ginning up a great deal of false information. A video was disseminated rather widely that showed the students in a classroom and depicted someone knocking on the door, and pretty much the allegation was that that was the suspect. We've now been able to determine that was not the suspect. Excuse me, more than likely it was one of our plainclothes detectives, and he may have been talking, bro, in a conversational manner.
Hey, bro, open up the door, man. Those kids did right, though, just to be safe and cautious, say, F that. I mean, I've seen cops talk all kinds of ways, like just whatever, so it's not but they were smart anyway to be cautious. But the guy just hey, bro, yeah, come to the door, man. Come check my ID. Open the door, bro. They're like, hell nah. Those kids just I think they cut whatever open they got out.
to try to bring them down from the crisis, to say, come on, bro, let's get out of the classrooms, let's get you outside, let's get you,
Nah,
that kind of comment.
I'm good.
The suspect, we have now confirmed by analyzing all of the video from the time it began to the time we took him into custody, never knocked on a door. So, the other thing that we are seeing, that we have heard on social media, was that, again, we were notified about this threat in advance. False. The threat that we were notified in advance was one from November 11th that actually we did investigate, and it was determined to be from Georgia, not Oakland County, and had no relationship to Oxford schools and was cleared as such. That is continuing to be cross-populated to this event. It has nothing to do with this event. So people are posting, I called the sheriff's office about a threat. It was a different set of circumstances that had nothing to do with this individual or the facts at hand. There were two events that happened fairly close proximity in timelines and the locations to Oxford. Both of them had nothing to do with this. We received no information about this individual prior to the shooting. We also were told that the school had some information or some contact with the individual. We had no information from the schools, but we have since learned that the schools did have contact with the student the day before and the day of the shooting for behavior in the classroom that they felt was concerning. In fact, the parents were brought in the morning of the shooting and had a face-to-face meeting with the school. The content of that meeting obviously is part of the investigation, but we did not learn of that meeting nor of the content of that meeting until after the shooting and during this investigation. So please, I remind everyone, be wary of social media and what's spread, because it's hurtful to the community, it's hurtful to the victims, and it spreads false, sad misinformation.
I wonder what particularly this kid was doing in class and what that conversation was like what kind of odd behavior. The other thing that's kind of weird to me, and I was talking to Silvio and Evelyn, like with this story, like you don't see all the video clips coming out. You don't really see, I mean, me personally, I haven't seen the kids coming out, hey, this happened, that. I mean, I saw like one or two. I saw the one kid, the kid from yesterday that was talking about that he believed, I think he said believed there was bullying and that there was prior notice or the kids knew something or suspected something. And then I just see one other one, but like usually you see a flurry of things and it's like you don't see much of anything. It's just really quiet. You know, who's his friends? What the hell was this kid doing in school? What was he doing acting weird and that it so much that they had to call his parents up the day before and the day of the shooting?
If anyone has information or believes they know something about this case, or frankly any case, or any potential threat anywhere in Oakland County, please call our phone line that we've given out before at 248-858-4911, or you can email us at OCSO, Oakland County Sheriff's Office, OCSO@oakgov.com, and of course we always accept anonymous tips. So I'll try to answer questions if it doesn't get too deeply into the evidence, because we're right now at the baton point where we're passing the baton from investigation to prosecution, and we don't want to say anything that may jeopardize that furtherance of the case. Secondly, one of the victims' families has been getting a great deal of contact from the media. They don't want to talk to the media, and they're feeling bombarded in this unbelievable moment of pain. So we would ask you to leave the family members that lost loved ones alone. And the father described it as wolves at the door, and they're dealing with the loss of a child. Let's not victimize them again, please.
And people are relentless. Wolves at the door, you described them as. It reminded me of like with the, I don't want to say too much of this, people will lose their mind, but with the Rittenhouse thing, where that was it MSNBC or whatever, these lunatics started chasing the juror bus or whatever, and they so much so I think they ran a light, and I think they were pulled over and something happened. I think they were trying to deny it and say something else. Bro, that's so like unethical and wrong to try to like expose the jury or whatever, you know.
Sheriff, on the victim who passed today, multiple ages have been given, 17.
17.
Prosecutor just said 15.
17.
100%?
We verified it via driver's license.
Thank you.
Sheriff, can you confirm that the suspect, if the suspect was at school and then left and then came back? Is that true?
Suspect was at school and did not leave, was brought into a meeting and then went back into the school area.
Sheriff, was more about the nature of the concerning behavior that was exhibited in the classroom? Was it a threat? Was it violent behavior?
I can't get into that. Again, we're at the evidentiary handoff point, but
Is that information that should have been relayed to the school liaison officer or you guys?
we always prefer to err on the side of too much rather than too little. I can't really go much beyond that, but we would rather, as I said yesterday, check out 1,000 nothings and miss one real deal.
Is that going to be investigated? Is the school going to have to potentially answer questions?
Well, it's certainly part of our investigation, and that's where we learned about it.
Sheriff, he was in school face-to-face with his parents. Was he in a meeting with them on the day of the shooting?
Yes.
And the parents left, and he stayed in the school?
Yes.
You know what time in the morning that might have occurred, that face-to-face?
Shortly after 10, I believe.
So between 10 and almost 1 o'clock, right? The shooting was at close to 1, right?
Correct. 12:52 thereabouts with first call came in, or was
Sheriff,
dispatched.
We're hearing that he went into the bathroom. He loaded the gun in the bathroom before walking out to shoot. Can you confirm that?
I can tell you he came out of the bathroom with the firearm and began shooting. I can't tell you if he loaded it in there.
Any updates on a motive just yet, Sheriff?
No, we obviously are not communicating with the suspect, so we can't get that from him. We're working, items that we have seized, as I talked about, documents, papers, phones, evidentiary value, items to look to see if there's something that would lead to us understanding what motivated him. But I will say again, there is nothing that he could have faced that would warrant senseless, absolutely brutal violence on other kids. And I have also asked the school if they had any records of him being bullied, and the coordinator of anti-bullying programs had no information that he'd been bullied by anyone.
The prosecutor talked about premeditation in her estimation, but was not able to clarify whether it was premeditation of certain victims. Did he go there with the intent to just kill, and these people were randomly targeted, or is there any indication they were specifically targeted?
We have no indication that these students were specifically targeted, and based on what I've seen, I don't think that's the case.
Was the meeting with the student, was there any discipline that was discussed that you know of, or just discipline that was decided in that meeting?
I really don't want to get into the specifics of that meeting because now it's part of the investigation, but I wanted to be transparent that we learned that a meeting had occurred and we did not know about that until after the shooting.
Sheriff, was he ever expelled from school?
No. Prior to those two meetings, there was no contact and nothing in his file by either concerning behavior or discipline.
In the investigation, how has the interactions been with the parents so far?
With the parents of the child?
Of the suspect.
Yeah, well, they've apparently hired an attorney, so we're not talking to the child or the parents.
I understand you're saying that threats were not reported to your office, but as you go through the sort of digital evidence and the writings, how clear or specific were threats that you might be making? Was it just generally bad language or specific threats?
I really don't want to get into ultimately what will be disclosed at trial and what we recover in terms of documented evidence.
In debunking social media misinformation, can you address some of the rumors about a countdown being displayed on one of the social media accounts, something that was ticking down to the day?
That's the first I've heard of it right now. So again, there's so much out on social media that we've spent a lot of time investigating and finding there was nothing to it and debunking, and it's causing us a great deal of resources, and it's causing the victims more harm and more hurt.
Is there any indication that the suspect had been treated for a mental health condition or was seeking treatment for a mental health condition at this time?
We have no information about that.
Sheriff, what was his proximity to the victim? Was he within, if the kid's walking down the hall?
Very close.
He was very close as opposed to...
Very close. Right? Very close.
I know all of this happened within like a 5 minutes, but is there like a timeline that you can give us as far as where the shooting started and the direction or avenue that he took?
Again, I don't want to get too awfully specific into the actual elements. He came out of the bathroom, began shooting, moved through hallways and back through hallways, and was apprehended in the hallway. Never went into a room. He was in the hallway the whole time.
And I have one more question, sir. Did he ever spend any time in a mental facility at all? Do we know that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Are you aware of the shooter going to a gun range in the days before the event to train with the weapon or get familiar with it?
We're told by different people that he had. There's some social media posts that allege that. We have not had the ability to verify at this point if there was a range or if that happened. And that's, again, I mean, understand the scope of this. The school has almost 1,800 students. And so everybody that was in school that day, we have to contact to see if they saw, heard, or knew anything. And we have to review every bit of video footage from all of the cameras in that building, which there is an extensive camera system thanks to the proactive work of Oxford Schools. And I'll also say on the proactive side, we've worked with Oxford Schools. Our liaison taught them in Alice. That saved lives. And after going through the scene last night and seeing it in a very non-rushed fashion, those practices were used and they saved lives. Desks were upturned, doors were barricaded, doors were actually hit by gunfire, and so were barricades. But the doors were safe. So that behavior, that training, and those protocols saved lives.
When was the last time there was training at that school? Was it for teachers or?
I believe it was just prior to COVID, maybe 2018.
Sheriff, you talked at length last night, today, about the training.
2019, 2018, somewhere in there.
Forgive me. You talked at length last night, today, about the training of your team, of the kids going through drills, but no mention about gun legislation, maybe trying to do things upstream to prevent these types of occurrences. The prosecutor talked about it a half hour ago. Do you have anything you want to share in your view in regards to whether that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have the feeling a lot of law enforcement has. We have a whole lot of gun laws that are meant to hold criminals accountable when they commit a crime, when they use a gun, when they carry a gun illegally, and they're not utilized today. And that's one of our constant concerns around the country. I'm head of government affairs for Major County Sheriffs of America, and we see this across the nation. We catch somebody illegally with a gun, and it's pled down to a misdemeanor, and they're out. We've had people, that have been charged with gun crimes 3 and 4 times. I believe the surest way to get a handle on holding people accountable when they're doing things illegally with a gun is to punish them. And that's not happening in many communities across America today. There is a NICS background check when you go in to attempt to purchase a firearm that requires you to go through this. There is a huge number of people that are prohibited from buying that firearm, that are caught by the system, that are never prosecuted for trying. We have gun laws in place. We're not holding people accountable. We have felony firearm in Michigan. I'd like to see anybody that's caught illegally possessing and using a firearm in a criminal manner should get felony firearm and do hard time. If we're going to hold people accountable, let's hold the criminals accountable.
Is there anything in the father's history that should have precluded him from being able to buy that firearm?
Not that I'm aware of.
Sir, how frustrating is it I know you mentioned that you guys have been trying to talk to the suspect and his parents, they're telling them not to talk. How frustrating is that for you and your deputies and your investigators?
I believe, regardless of what the parents or the individual suspect does, our investigators are well on the path to create a very, very good case to hand the baton to the prosecutor.
Sheriff, I have one more question about the actual shooting. In a crowded hallway in school in close proximity, did the initial victims even know what was going on when they were shot? The reason I'm asking, I'm a parent with kids in school.
Sure.
And I know how kids walk through a hallway. You always tell your kids, you know, keep your eyes open, be careful. But if a kid is walking next to you or behind you, and you don't know his or her intention, there's not a whole lot you can do. Did the initial victims who were shot, did they actually know what the heck was going on when it happened?
I would have to say no.
Sheriff, so we were told that there was a female retired deputy who was helping out at the school yesterday. Do you have any more information on who she is and how she was able to help out?
Their private security is employed by the school district in addition to us having a school resource officer that covers Oxford schools. I know some of them were there yesterday. I'm not sure all the specific ones. So we really don't want to get into identifying personnel at this point, but there were private security people employed by the school, and I know at least one or two were there yesterday.
Sheriff, the prosecutor said, I'm sorry, she said it's being considered or looked into, but from where you sit with the evidence you found, do you see any potential criminal negligence on behalf of the parents?
I think that would have to be a TBD as the investigation to be determined. As the investigation unfolds, and we present it to the prosecutor, and then she'll make the decision.
Sheriff, how did the gun get inside the building?
You know, it's speculative, obviously, but my guess is he carried it in, either in his backpack or in his waist.
Sheriff, can you, I apologize for the repetitive question, can you explain again the meeting of that morning and the day before? It was a meeting with his parents about his behavior?
The day before, it was a meeting with school personnel about some concerning behavior, and the meeting the day of was with school personnel and parents.
About the same issue?
About a different issue.
What was that issue the day of?
I really can't go into the specific issues on either day, but two different meetings happened.
Can you give us any insight into his mental state? There was, obviously, he's on suicide watch. If he's moved to a county jail, will that be continued, or are there concerns about him?
Well, typically, anytime we have somebody with the active participating role in a tragedy such as this, they're put on suicide watch just to ensure that nothing happens. So that's kind of SOP, standard operating procedure, and absolutely, if he gets transferred to the Oakland County Jail, that will happen.
There have been a number of copycat threats throughout the county today. I know
Sadly.
Deputies are already beyond busy, but I assume that has already taxed your resources.
Yeah, spot on, Russ. Yeah, there's it's some weird anomaly. Every time something like this happens in the country, there's a whole bunch of copycat threats and texts and pictures, and it really burdens law enforcement all across the nation. We're actually in schools today investigating what we think are part of that incredibly disturbing trend. And that's again, it raises the level of anxiety of parents, students, and teachers in schools that had nothing to do with this individual incident, but are now feeling very much anxious and tied to it. And that's how it broadens this whole anxiety and
Yeah, the school shooter is 15. I think some people got confused because there was a mention of a 17-year-old. I think one of the people that were killed was 17. Actually, two people were 17. Madison is 17, and Justin Schilling I have as 17.
Depression that many parents and students are feeling, and it's incredibly disturbing. And so when those kids or whoever we find out call in or do these text false threats, you know, as you've seen us in the past, we attempt to get charges on them. Even if it's not a credible threat, the mere threat is a crime, and if you make a threat, we're going to seek charges.
Again, apologies on the redundancy. No evidence of bullying from where you sit right now, correct?
I specifically myself asked the school district. They had no information in any of their records that he had been bullied, and we have had no information brought to our attention from any other source that he had been bullied.
Thank you.
Sharon,
The prosecutor said that the suspect may have been planning the shooting for a while. Do you know if the FBI was aware of any of this prior to this incident?
At this point, I'm not aware any law enforcement agency had him or the school on their radar for this particular incident at all.
For this particular incident, what about previous incidents? Or
Any incident involving him. He wasn't on any law enforcement radar that I'm aware of. Certainly not ours. We had no communication about him or about anything that was pending, and I haven't heard from any law enforcement agency that they did.
Was the suspect a gamer? Did he have any video games?
Apparently, he was interested in games. I can't really comment on what those were at this point. That obviously is something that will be looked.
I saw something with video games, like I don't know what it was, Call of Duty or something somewhere. To me personally, I don't know that there's any kind of correlation with that. I mean, there's so many people that game. I game once in a while from time to time. I've known a bunch of people. I mean, if you're nuts, you're nuts. You know what I'm saying? I don't know that just the Call of Duty is just going to send you into a frenzy and you're going to do something you would have never done before had you not played that game. It's something they've been trying to do for a long time, but I mean, I don't know. Then if you're going to go that route, go the route of the movies too and all the other stuff, you know? So, I mean, I don't know.
That as well.
Sheriff, is the belief that he took the gun illegally or was given the gun illegally?
That part of the investigation. In any event, he had the gun illegally, took the gun illegally into a school, and used the gun in an illegal and murderous fashion. So we've got a whole bunch of charges already, regardless of how he came into possession of it.
Any clarity you can give on his familiarity with weapons, perhaps gun range use, etc., in terms of his background and familiarity with guns?
I don't know much beyond what we saw in evidence in the school, and that will be part of the investigation, obviously. With this particular weapon, it's our understanding it was purchased 4 days ago, so this particular weapon probably not a huge...
That's true. There's a lot of other routes. I saw, who's saying that? Sess. It's everything then. Movies, media, music, all condoning about. Yeah, there's a bunch of different things. I don't know why there's always a focus on video games, but there's so much more. Yeah.
Huge amount of familiarity with.
But over the years, other weapons?
That's part of the investigation.
What's your perspective on the terrorism charge, the impact of that message it sends to the community?
I agree 100%. You know, if you weren't hit by a bullet, doesn't mean you weren't terrorized that day and won't have nightmares about it the rest of your life. Whether you're a parent, a teacher, or a student in that class. You know, going through that building in the wee hours of this morning, looking at the disarray in the classrooms and the backpacks strewn across the floor, that had to have been an absolutely terrorizing moment in anyone's life. I don't care if you're an adult or a child.
How much more time do you expect on processing at the school itself? Are you pretty much done?
We're pretty much wrapped up with the physical processing in the school, not necessarily the evidence that we obtained from it.
There's a search warrant executed at the parents' house. Are there additional properties that you're looking at that require similar searches?
We did seize some property at the house, and our detectives are going through it. So I think I mentioned this before. We've got a lot of different bundles here that we're fortunate to have under our own roof. We have our own crime lab, so they're processing things as it relates to the scene and items that were seized there. We have computer crimes looking at any kind of digital evidence, including his phone. You know, we have detectives looking at any potential documents or other things that may contain information or things relative to, you know, some of his thoughts. Maybe it might be contained in some of that. So a lot of those things are kind of spanned out to all of our different specialists, and then they'll be brought together under the officer in charge of the case and relayed to the prosecutor.
Can you give us any details on what was seized or maybe the volume of material that was seized?
I can't get into the details of what was seized. I can just tell you we have a voluminous amount of stuff and things to do. Stuff to go through and things to do.
Sheriff, I just have one more question, and I believe you answered it previously, so I apologize for that. Will your investigators, will they have a follow-up conversation with the school in regards to why you guys were not informed about that meeting or his his behavior?
Certainly our investigators will be and are in close contact with that school, and we're in close contact with all schools in Oakland County. And we encourage all schools, public or private, houses of worship, businesses, anyone that has any concerning behavior, they should report it. Allow law enforcement the opportunity to make the situation safe, to say there's nothing to it or we need to look deeper. That's what we want to do. It's not a burden. So we encourage people, wherever they are, if they're concerned about something, let us know, or let your local police know.
The term concerning behavior, does that constitute threats in specific?
I don't want to get too awfully into what was concerning, because then I get into the actual content. But, you know, it's one of those things, if someone looks at it and you go, oh, that doesn't seem right, whether it's threatening or disturbing, or maybe they're worried about, you know, someone being bullied or suicidal. We have obviously a huge problem in America with suicide, especially teens. If they see something that may cross into any of those realms, it needs to be shared so we can figure it out, A, if it's a threat to anyone else or themselves, and B, where to get help.
Has the school indicated why they didn't share the concerning behavior with your office?
That's all part of our discussion with them.
Sheriff, did he know about the meeting with the school officials and his parents that morning?
Did who know?
Did the defendant, I'm sorry, did Crumbley, Ethan, did he know that he was going to be meeting with school officials and his parents?
No, he was brought into the meeting and his parents were called.
Okay, so I'm asking because did he ever leave the school after that meeting?
No,
the
not.
gun was already in school, so the gun was somewhere in the
Still,
school.
again, it's still a moving. We believe it was. I can't definitively say 100% that it was, but we believe it was, because we've begun the process of tracking his movements and saw at what point and where he came out with the weapon.
Thank you.
Sheriff, do you think that some type of red flag law could have helped prevent this crime at all? Or I don't even know if something like that even exists for a minor. If, like, could guns have been taken away from the parent's home? Or,
You know, I don't necessarily think so. I think the most important thing is to share information, because, I mean, for anything, whether what you're talking about or a different process, you have to share. You have to say, this seems concerning, can you look into it? And with or without that, we would, and say, hey, what's going on? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What have you seen? And try to determine where it's coming from and where it might lead.
You may have mentioned this, but for the private security you previously mentioned, were they affiliated with the school or?
Yes.
After the meeting in the morning with the school and the parents, did the suspect go back to class? Was he released back to?
He was released back into the school from the meeting.
Do you have any video of where he retrieved the weapon from, like a locker or somewhere?
Again, the first time we saw the weapon actually in evidence was when he came out of the bathroom. So, you know, every other moment in time, it wasn't observed. So whether it was concealed on his person or in a backpack or hidden somewhere in the restroom, that is all part of the investigation if we can determine.
There's been some discussion of metal detectors in schools and whether that would have prevented him from being able to smuggle a weapon inside the building.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
The vast majority of schools in America do not have weapons or metal detectors. And you know, that's a determination for each district about what kind of environment they want to be operating in. But I know for a fact one of the last debriefs I got on a school shooter, he came in through a back door. Somebody was going out and he came in, walked in with a firearm and began shooting. So, there's tragically nothing foolproof in a world where you have people that want to hurt other people. But again, the best preventive path that we've seen that has worked is to make sure everyone talks about something they've seen, heard, or witnessed so it can get looked into. to put training and protocols in place. In fact, that situation that I just mentioned where somebody came in a door that was a non-traditional door, they had radios as a school system all around the building, and anyone in the school was empowered to put the school into lockdown. And so a groundskeeper or a janitor, I can't remember his actual position, saw the person with a firearm going in the school and called it out on the radio. The school went into lockdown. They still had, I believe, 1 or 2 students killed, but everybody else was in lockdown, and the police were able to get there before any more perished. So processes, training, communication, that's some of the best paths that we've seen in terms of success.
Sure, but you'll be releasing any video footage from inside the school?
No, at this point that would become a handoff to the prosecutor for evidence.
The 14-year-old with a gunshot wound to the jaw and hand has been discharged.
Recent update, the 14-year-old with the gunshot wound to the hand and jaw has been discharged.
Any update on the young girl described yesterday on a ventilator after a chest wound and surgery?
I think she's still...
She's off the ventilator now.
She's off the ventilator, but she's still critical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Did you mention a time for the arraignment?
It's probably happening almost as we speak. It's going to be a video arraignment. So the detective's driving in person to the district court where he's going to swear to the warrant. Then they're going to connect via video and arraign the suspect to that court.
Just so we're straight, can you relay the names of the folks that are still hospitalized in critical condition?
No, we're not naming the victims that are hospitalized. I mean, even the ones that are deceased, were sad to hear that they've been negatively impacted. You know, we had hoped that it'd be uplifting and supportive rather than focusing attention that they don't want.
At any point in the video, did anybody try to disarm him, or were people just running from him?
Nothing I saw tells me that, and I'm not sure that we have any information on that front that has come to me. So the part I saw, there was no attempt. But obviously, when you've got somebody very close firing a weapon, that's not almost anybody's natural response to go towards it other than police and military. And that's with extensive training. Anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So really quickly too, I want to show you guys. There's a petition. I'm gonna squeeze this in before I get out of here because kind of running past the time. Tate, this is one of the kids that was killed. There's a petition to rename the Wildcat Stadium to his name. He's a football player. Oxford High School, who killed 3 people, which now is 4, and injured many more. One of the students was killed in an attempt to disarm. So this over here is claiming that, you know, he attempted to disarm the shooter. The student is Tate Meyer. Tate is not just a hero to his fellow students at Oxford School, but a legend. His act of bravery should be remembered forever and passed down through the generations. He put his life in danger to try to help the thousands of other students at Oxford High School. Maybe that's why they asked. Also, like, did you see anything? Maybe they're trying to find out about this, what they're stating here. But yeah, that's the petition. So it's in the description of the video if you want to check it out. And I think that was it. There was this other kid. Let me see. It's only 30 seconds. Let me see this.
We heard 2 gunshots, and then after that, my teacher ran into the room, locked it, we barricaded, and then we covered the windows and hid. The very first thing in my head was, this is actually happening. I'm going to text my family, say I love them, just in case if I were to die.
That was just a little snippet of that. And again, thank you guys so much for coming through. I appreciate it. We're gonna be doing more content, more live streams, just covering crazy stories, also covering missing people, and a variety that we do. Thank you for all the super chats. Thank you, Brandy, for that last super chat. Thank you, Momo, for the membership. Thank you, Jeff, for the membership. There's another person too that I wanted to mention. Oh, I think Magsby. I don't think it was a new membership. I think you've been a member for a while. But yeah, but thank you, everybody. Appreciate it, man. Hope you guys have a good night. Be safe. A lot of craziness just everywhere, man. Everywhere. I don't know what kind of defense this guy's going to try to do. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It should be interesting, I guess. But yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it, man. Have a good night. Take care. Peace. Peace. Be safe. Shout out to the Discord crew and mods.